Where on earth is the future of work in an AI-driven world actually heading? And how can we prepare our children for a future in school today? Just before we get into today's episode, we'd love you to take a couple of seconds to hit follow or subscribe on your favourite podcast app. That way, you'll never miss an episode on future-proofing your school. Now, we keep hearing about the future of work like it's about sitting in an office and managing AI, but the reality is to hit our renewable energy targets and to even power that tech, we actually have to build the infrastructure. Jobs and Skills Australia have pointed out that some of the massive workforce needs right now, we need thousands of skilled tradespeople, technicians and construction workers. The problem is our education system gives the university pathways all the public visibility, but what about our tradies? That's why here at Mindflight 7 and this podcast, The Skills Bridge, we're bringing together the progressive leaders that will help us build this hands-on workforce that we desperately need. Now, joining me today in the studio is Dr. Sandra Gallagher, Managing Director of Eureka Learning Network and the ELN Game Studio. Now, Sandra has extensive experience across education, vocational training, compliance, learning design and digital technology, and also is the creator of Tradiecraft, an immersive learning product developed by ELN's Game Studio and Mindflight 7 to introduce learners to engineering and manufacturing environments, workplace safety, tools and practical delivery, and the Mindflight 7 team have also been part of this and this eco-learning system. We're going to find out more. Here she is in the studio, Dr. Sandra Gallagher. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Pat.
Well, great to be here. The future relies on tradies. Can we start there and just set the scene for us, please, Sam?
Yeah. So we have always focused on university, and I've been a passionate believer in trades. I'm not a tradesman myself. My kids are tradies, and I've always pushed because if you can have a trade, you can do university later in life. And trades is where the money is. Trades is where the skill sets that are always required. You always need an electrician. Doesn't matter if you've got solar on your roof. If you need a motor mechanic to get your car fixed, you need a plasterer to do your house. You need someone to build your house. So the trades are where we need to keep focusing and encourage kids that it's not the last thing on the list. It should be one of the first considerations in school outcome.
And why then does it seem like it's just a backup plan, the tradies? You know, it seems to be in the background. That must be frustrating for you.
Yeah, it is really frustrating. And for someone that actually does have a doctorate, and I have gone through the education realm, but I also, when I left school in year 10, I joined the army. So I suppose a trade in a different level. And it was the skills that I learned there that I saw that it's a skill set that needs to occur. So what the schools are focused on, though, are the prestige of having a student go to university. We've got such and such has got the ATAR to go to university. No one actually looks at the bigger picture and sees how many students actually do go to university and how many actually maybe set up their own business or learn a trade.
Now, this ties into this product, Tradiecraft. That's our next step. Should we talk about that?
Yeah. Yes, of course. So Tradiecraft came from my little brain back in 2014, way before we had the proper virtual reality. We used to be able to be tied in. I used to work for a major university in Sydney where I started learning about virtual reality. And that's when I penned out what I thought could happen. It's only become a realistic goal in the last couple of years because the technology was never there. So the framework for Tradiecraft is to imitate, or I suppose that's one of a better word, is that the student can actually arrive at the Tradiecraft warehouse in virtual reality. So it's actually copying a proper workforce scenario. So they turn up to Tradiecraft, they are welcomed in the reception area on their first day as a trainee, and off they go, and they then learn about work health safety, which is a requirement before you even step foot in a workshop, and then you work your way through all those requirements to then you get on the workshop floor, and that's where the real experience begins. And so we're actually breaking ground with what we're doing. We don't just watch videos. We actually have the students learn about the tools. They can pick up a hammer, they can shape metal, they can cut metal, they use tin snips, they use lathe machines.
All with the VR goggles.
All with the VR goggles, correct.
It's immersive learning
Very
tool.
immersive learning tool.
And that works alongside sort of practical training as well and formal assessment?
Yes, it is the learning. You can supplement the learning, of course, but it helps to replace the book, I suppose. And we have in-game supervisors that
Mm.
actually help them. We have an in-game robot called TRD, and he helps give hints and tips along the way to help the learners actually understand what they are doing. So yes, it is supported. If students want to go further, they can get a qualification if they go to a workshop and apply the skills that they've learnt in VR.
So, Sandra, it's an opportunity for schools in a way because setting up a real workshop, I mean, it's physical, it's expensive, there's a lot going on there. So this allows schools to embrace this with having that expense or the worry about setting up an actual workshop.
Yes, correct. So they can give the students exactly the same experience. It's just in virtual reality.
And this is what you've created. And you said it came from, you said your little mind.
Yes,
So
it did.
what, at 3 a.m, it sort of popped into your head?
Yeah, it was about that. And I've actually still got my notes from 2014. So it's taken 12 years to get to where we are.
And with this in mind, it's coming to the future. Talk to our students now. What do they need to be prepared for? How does it change their world?
It will change their world if they get to experience hands-on without getting hurt. That's the biggest thing. It will allow them to learn the critical skills of using tools, critical thinking, participating, listening skills, which I think is a really clear one, and being able to make decisions on their own without being led by someone else.
All right. And this is sort of similar and follow-up question. So imagining walking into the learning space as the experience, what does it look like?
So it looks like a real workshop. So you walk in, there's machinery, there's people working on welding, there's people, we call them non-player characters in the actual modules, and they've actually got a supervisor. So Olive, our supervisor, and Bill, our cantankerous head supervisor, give instructions on what to expect in the game. They then get given a project, and then they get given, and TRD, the little excited robot, will help them along the way with little hints and tips, and he's a little bit cheeky, so he'll have a little shot at them if they're not doing something right. But the idea of it is that they can practice, they can make mistakes, they're not punished, they're not embarrassed. The only people that can see what they're doing is them themselves. So they get encouraged to keep having a go and creating something. And each module that they do, they actually create something. They don't just learn about it, they actually physically create a product in virtual reality.
So it's not shortcutting the system, it's assisting them to think about it in a critical way and engaging the mind.
Correct.
Differently.
And encouraging them to think about a trade outside of virtual reality.
And this is all happening now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Very much so.
Boy. So for our 15-year-old students who might be listening to this podcast and feeling anxious about AI and the changing world ahead, do you have a message for them?
I do. Continue learning. Don't always focus on one thing in your career. Focus on plenty. I've had many, many careers, and I think it just grows who you are. Have an inquisitive mind. Ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid of the answer that you may receive. Do your research and move on from there.
And to, well, not rethink, but the to be a tradie and go down that road is something to put in your mind.
Of course. And to think that you can actually earn a salary from day one is phenomenal. Why wouldn't you want to have income coming in that you could spend on your favourite games?
I'm just going to, thank you, Sandra. So, Sandra, it's not about replacing these roles. That's fair to say.
No, it's not about replacing roles. AI has its place, and I think it will always have its place. It can be used to complement roles, but it's not to replace roles. Trades will never be able to be overtaken by AI. It's not going to happen. It could help them if they need to, an engineer, if they need to design something. Of course, AI is going to be there to help with the design fixtures. But you can't have an electrician out working on a solar panel and going, oh, hang on a minute, I need AI to do this for me. So we need to think logically that trades will never be replaced. And that's including the higher up qualifications in education. Engineers aren't going to be replaced by AI. Artificial intelligence will need people to manage it. It doesn't work on its own. So you need, IT qualifications as well, education. Who's going to teach the AI? So I think we're looking at it in a too narrow context. It needs to be a little bit broader, that AI is an assistant. It may take over in some businesses in streamlining policies and procedures and processes, but it's not going to take over a lot of job roles per se by 2030. That's my view.
Yeah, well, you're an expert, and it's good
That's
you can
right.
see the future better than we can. Even more reason to think about it then, this pathway. More.
Yeah, correct. Look at the pathway. Look at the the trades. Be encouraged to look at what's out there. It's not just engineering as typically as we look at it engineering. Engineering can be composites. So working on the wind turbines, you need to have a composites qualification to be able to swing off the wind turbine and do some patches on the wind turbine blades. So it's quite a variety of job roles within that engineering qualification.
And Tradiecraft, this tool,
Yes.
is that the right description?
Yes, correct.
The evolution of that, will that be changing in any...
Won't be changing straight away. We would like to incorporate AI as like a chatbot so the students could actually have a full conversation and get an answer that they require that we haven't predetermined. Having conversation in VR with a chatbot rather than using, a keyboard and listening is where we'd like to eventually go. And I still think it's a few years away yet.
And using this technology for assessment, is that something we need to think about?
We could. I think a lot of people would like to have it as an assessment. There's standards that we need to abide by through ASQA. And I would say for some of the softer skills, like learning using a computer, making career choices within the modules that we're creating, could be accessible within the module. However, how it stands, we've written it so it can be assessed by a qualified teacher, so a TAFE trainer.
And I know you've answered this, I'm sure, but just remind us the human capabilities that you believe our students should develop before leaving school.
They should understand how to use AI, not as to give you all the correct answers. Challenge AI and ask it to be your assistant. To learn to think critically. Don't take everything that's said to you as gospel. Research what's been said and determine your own responses. Learn outside school. Learn anything. Go and play soccer. Go and play football. AFL. Play something where you're actually working in a team. Get all these skill sets behind you. Even, I've recently had people come to me with a CV. What do I put in my CV if I haven't gone to work? And I said, have you done chores at home? Yes, I do. We'll write those chores down because it's a relevant skill set.
So it's integrating the two worlds.
It is integrating the two worlds, correct.
So it's something to be excited about, I guess.
Very excited. And Tradiecraft is really somewhere we need to start focusing on.
So, Sandra, let's talk about, the parents, because their mindset tends to be encouraging their children to embrace that university pathway, but it's time for a rethink.
Yeah, it is time for a rethink. Look, a university degree is for some, not all. And I think the mindset is that you can only succeed if you have a degree. And that comes from way back in the 1950s in Australia. It was that push. You don't want to be a tradesperson. You want to have a degree and succeed. And that's not the case anymore. Trades are starting to really evolve, and parents need to understand that their kids will be earning a lot more money straight off the bat than somebody attending university. Go to university after you've done your trade if that's what you really want to do. Do your trade first. Do something that's going to give you the skill sets and help you grow as a person, and then move into going to university. And that's like what I did. I didn't start university till I was 32.
So the education to be educated as a tradie now is flowing better because of people like you. So there's another reason for our parents to rethink their advice to their children.
Yeah, correct. My experience alone, I have boys that have all got trades, all wanted to go to university, and I said no. And the teachers looked at me and like, that's a bit weird coming from an educated person that was working as an academic. And I said, why? Why force them to do 4 years and struggle when they could do 4 years, learn a trade and have their own business?
So Sandra Gallagher, Managing Director of Eureka Learning Network and the ELN Game Studio. Thanks for being here today on our podcast.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
That wraps up another episode of The Skills Bridge. If you enjoyed this conversation, please hit follow and pass this episode along to a principal, VET coordinator or careers advisor in your network. We'd appreciate that. Next week, we're tackling a massive issue, teacher burnout. I'll be joined by Jared Morgan from Mindflight 7 to discuss why the EdTech industry needs to step up as a true capacity partner. We'll look at how AI platforms like the Smart Hub are actually giving teachers their weekends back. Subscribe so you don't miss it and head to mindflight7.com.au to book an XR Lab demo for your school. Thanks for joining us on The Skills Bridge.